it's a negative review. They gave a negative score, but they said this. Like an episode of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego with explosions and car chases. Now, if I saw that review without the score, that would be a good review.
Yeah, that's only a good review.
Like, how is that a bad review? Well, I find it interesting that like people have different choices. I'm glad that we do. There's like a movie that a lot of people hate that I absolutely love, and that is Bulletproof Monk.
Apparently, I hated that movie.
That did get me thinking about the differences in like just our opinions, and like the critics like usually have a lot of times have different opinions than the audiences. Like the people that actually go out and see the movies, a lot of times will like a movie that a critic hates. And then there's times where critics love a movie and people go to see it and they just absolutely destroy the movie. They're like, this is terrible. Why was it even made?
I mean, you fall for it during commercials, when a movie
I think
comes out.
some of these, I think when it's one of the ones that critics love and audiences hate, I think it's the fact that a lot of people go up with expectations and those expectations aren't met.
You want to talk about this?
Yes, let's talk about it. I'm CRollur.
And I'm Willy.
Today, we're going to be talking about the differences between critic reviews and audience reviews. So, Willy, do you have any examples of this?
Yeah.
All right.
I got
what examples do you got?
Of like, where like the critics were completely like wrong and honest. Well, it's kind of funny. I want to put something out in there too, because a lot of times critics will completely flop a movie. Then one person like me or you be like, well, we'll go check it out. Then we end up loving the movie. Then we're like, well, maybe if I come back next week and I bring some friends with me and watch this movie, then it's like a big ladder thing going on, because then your friends will end up bringing their friends and watching it the second time, and then that's what makes it where like Rotten Tomatoes look bad and the honest reviews look really good.
Oh, speaking of Rotten Tomatoes, I honestly think that they are probably the worst at this. Because I went to Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic for all of my research on this, and I found that Metacritic isn't as bad as Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes been out for a while, haven't they? Like back in like the 90s or 80s.
But when we look at the scores, you'll see that time and time again, Rotten Tomatoes has a way different score than the audience gives. Yeah. Whereas Metacritic usually brings it a little even with audience and critic reviews.
So I feel like we should start from like earlier movies, right?
What earlier movies are you thinking of?
For example, the movie Predator.
Okay, yeah. What about it?
Well, I think what it was, the critics thought that was going to be a terrible movie. Then the audiences loved it.
Why do you think that is?
Because they gave them bad reviews. Like it wasn't popular then, but like over the years when
it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, like 10 years after Predator was out, that's when people got into it. They were like, "Wow, this is actually a good movie." And the same thing happened with The Shining.
The Shining is almost like a classic at this point, because like some people like it, some people hate it, but in the end, everybody knows what The Shining is.
Yeah, everyone knows what The Shining is. Everyone's seen it.
So yeah, like.
And
it's obviously popular. We know what it is.
The critics didn't like The Shining because they didn't like the way, Jack Nicholson looked all crazy and insane. They're like, yeah, this movie's going to be a blowout, whatever. It's going to suck.
Now, a movie that my family loves, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people love, but the critics hated, is National Treasure. Did you know? Okay.
The first movie.
On Rotten Tomatoes, right?
All right.
It had a 46. They took off the score because like audiences gave it a 76 and they had a 46 on for the tomato meter, which is the critic score.
Right.
So 46 to 76. Audiences loved it. I think it's weird that they took off the rating. Like it's not even there anymore. It's blank.
The first National Treasure movie wasn't a Disney movie when it first came out, was it? And I think later on Disney picked it up.
I know that Disney owns the franchise. I don't know if it was a Disney when
it's kind of like with Pirates of the Caribbean. It wasn't a Disney movie when it first started.
But I want to list off some of the reviews I found. As documents go, this one tastes like cardboard. Like what even is that? That says nothing about the movie itself.
Little Caesars tastes like cardboard, and it's still pretty fucking good.
Cage, movie star as social studies teacher. That tells me nothing about the movie at all.
Do you think there's like more to it with these critics. Like, do you think like someone's telling these critics to give it bad reviews just so people?
I mean, it's possible.
I think there's more to it.
I got one more example here of a bad review, and this one I thought was hilarious. It's a negative review. They gave a negative score, but they said this: like an episode of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego with explosions and car chases. Now, if I saw that review without the score, that would be a good review to me.
That sounds like a good review.
Like, how is that a bad review?
Wow.
Like, I don't think they understand what a bad review is.
No.
But it had a bad score next to it. I'm like, what the hell? And then Metacritic still has it has not as big of a stretch between the two, but they had a 40 and a 6.9 out of 10, which equates to about 69%. All right.
I think I like the score where it's like 1 through 10 more than.
Well, it'd be 4 to 6.9 then.
Okay.
So basically 4 to 7.
Ain't bad. That's actually not a bad score for Meta.
Well, the thing is they're still right on, but they're not as bad because the user score was slightly lower.
It's not like a belt spanking like Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, we're not even into how different some of these are. I've noticed that Rotten Tomatoes tends to put things a lot lower or a lot higher compared to the audience than Metacritic does.
Maybe they don't listen to their audiences. They just like give it their,
I mean, if we want to talk about another one that's kind of like that.
I mean, there's movies out there too that the critics really loved and the audiences hated, like Joker.
The Joker.
Yeah.
The new one?
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of the reasons why audiences weren't necessarily as receptive to it is because the movie wasn't
there wasn't really much action in it. It was more dialogue and you know what I mean? Like people thought
it wasn't like the traditional Batman and Joker style movie. It was more of
But the way the critics made it out to be that Jacqueline Phoenix did way better job than what Heath Ledger did, and he's like, "This is like the next new Joker," and blah blah blah.
I think that right there, like if that was an actual review that you saw, or even if it's not, like if that's what people were expecting when they went in, that's not what they got.
No, not at all.
So I think a lot of times, I think when a critic rates something higher and audiences don't, it's usually because people go into a movie expecting one thing and coming out totally different.
And trailers, like I said, like movie trailers, they also help, try to get audiences to go watch it. And they,
I mean, another one that's just like that is Sausage Party.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that was going to be a cute cartoon about produce. That was not what it was.
Nope.
I watched it. I watched some of that, and I'm like, it's a bit too violent.
There was some funny parts of the movie, but
there are, but
it wasn't really.
It was not rated for kids.
No,
and I think a lot of people were expecting a kids movie from it.
I mean, yeah,
and that's probably why, like, it got like 82% from the critics at Rotten Tomato and only 50 from audience.
That's why I didn't watch the movie in the theaters because I thought it was a little kids movie.
This one actually kind of proves my point about Meta. It was only 66 from the critics and 5.6 from the users. That's not as big of a gap as it is on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics just went crazy. Like, this is an awesome movie. And people are like, this is not what we wanted from this.
Can I ask you about another company? It's a YouTube review thing. It's called, was it Moji? Or
Watch Mojo?
Yeah, Watch Mojo. That's what it is.
They don't necessarily... The videos I watch aren't necessarily reviews. The ones I watch are all their top 10 lists. And their top 10 lists seemed absolutely subjective to me.
Mm.
They don't seem to have any actual merit behind what they choose and what order they choose them in.
It's just a personal preference to the person doing it, right?
That's what it feels like to me. You did mention to me outside of the podcast earlier that they actually do reviews, and some of the, like, for the gaming reviews that they do.
Yeah.
The reviews actually seem somewhat legitimate, but I've never watched a review from them because I got turned off on the top 10 list.
Yeah, I don't watch the top 10. Like that's the reason why I bought Fire Emblem. I can't remember the second part of it. It's the newest Fire Emblem. I bought it because was it Mojo?
Watch Mojo.
Watch Mojo. Well, they gave it like a 9 out of 10 rating, and I was like, oh, that's
now. If we're going to talk about video games, my go-to for looking for reviews and stuff,
IGN.
No, it's not even IGN. Although IGN is probably a good place to go, along with like was it GameSpot and stuff like that. But no, I go to another YouTube channel called Gamer Rinks
Oh, never
or
heard of
Game
it.
Ranks. Gamer, I think it's Game Ranks. But I go to them, and the reason I go to them is because all of them are actual gamers. They're not people from like the media playing a game to review it. They are actually gamers who's not only it's not only their job and hobby to do this, like not only their job to play these games and review them, but it's also like their hobby from when they were younger till they got a career in reviewing games.
There's another game that got really hyped up from like reviewers or whatever, and that was No Man's Sky. That was really overhyped. A lot of people bought it. And then
Okay,
they
No
didn't.
Man's Sky, I think the way it is now is probably closer to what critics reviewed it at. But when it came out, it was an unfinished game.
Yeah,
And I think that really killed it.
yeah. And then when they did make it better, a lot of people just gave up on playing it.
It's too little too late. At the,
I think it took them like 2
like
years to even fix
when
that.
I first heard of No Man's Sky, I'm like, this sounds awesome. But since I don't buy games right out of the bat unless
Oh, I do.
like
Then I'm like either happy.
I don't typically like usually at the very least I wait a week. But even then a lot of games I just can't afford at the time. So I will wait like a month or two or even 6 months down the line to even buy a game. And by that point, I had heard so many secondhand reviews of people who've actually played it and were like, the game is not what it was promised to be.
Yeah, but then the people that were like diehard fans just kept playing it anyways, and it got better. And then
That's also like Cyberpunk, what was it,
yeah,
2077?
yeah.
It had so much potential, but it was a hot mess when it first came out. Crashes, bugs, couldn't run on the consoles. Like if you had a PS4, I'm pretty sure you still can't play it on PS4.
I feel like the critics that rate these games, I don't think they actually play it. I just think they just look at the idea of the game. They're like, "Oh, this is gonna be the best game ever." And
Well,
then they,
you got to consider that a lot of what they're playing is a beta that gets sent to them before the game release, and it's meant to run on the system that they're playing it on. So it's going to run perfectly fine. It's going to have all the best stuff. It's tailored to look as good as it can possibly be. And that's part of the problem, I think, is that they push out all this stuff, especially in video games,
right?
because there are so many day one patches in video games because they push something out and then the rest of the video game has to be downloaded because they couldn't push it out in time. And this is something that is a problem in video games.
Is there any time when you bought a game that the critics were actually right when you got it, and you're like, "Wow, this game is actually really good." Like, for example, you've been playing Diablo 4, right? Were the critics right about that?
I think for the most part they were. There is one concerning thing right now, which is that there's a couple things, but the one thing that's concerning me the most right now is that the renowned reset is supposed to reset every season, which is really sucky for everybody who doesn't play like 8 hours a day, because now you put all this work into a character and now a lot of their stats are just missing and gone the time the season rolls over. You have to start over, basically.
No, that's bullshit.
I mean, the idea is that you get a new character and you start over every season, but not everybody has time to do that.
I just wanted to throw the games in there because I just wanted to see what you.
So some of the other, like, if we're going back to movies. Some of the other movies, like particularly that like critics hated, but audiences loved, is like Super Troopers. I know it's a dumb movie, but that was the entire point. It was stupid comedy. It was supposed to make you laugh.
Right.
It was dumb jokes over and over, make you laugh, and it did that.
Yeah. I mean, we got a
people
bunch
loved
of
it.
dorky Super Troopers. So.
And this is probably out of all the movies that I've done that I did research on, this one is the only one that hit an audience score of 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh shit!
People loved it that much. And then it only had a 40 score it only had a 36 score on the Tomato Meter critic score thing. Even Metacritic had it, like, it only had a 48 and the audience was at 7.6. out of 10. So like it did pretty damn well with audiences.
Now, with the we're talking about like the numbers with the audiences, is that just like in the theaters or that like people buying like the?
Oh no, that's people that go to the websites and review it.
Oh, okay.
There are other ones that, like, if you want to look at like the box office revenue, some of these hit like almost chart topping revenue.
But it doesn't mean that they like it or dislike it, right?
Not necessarily.
It's just that people went and watched it.
Yeah.
So you
But
can't really
here's the
believe the
thing.
numbers then.
Typically, if it has a big box office thing, that means not only do people see it, but then they told their friends and those people saw it, and then those people saw it, you know? I mean, sometimes you can get enough hype to get millions and millions of dollars off of opening weekend and everybody going and seeing it. Mm-hmm. But the people that come back and watch it or tell their friends and have them watch it, those are the ones that that do really, really well.
Yeah, because I normally don't go to the theaters very often. I just wait for the movie to come out, on streaming or DVD or whatever.
You ever watch Hocus Pocus?
I love Hocus Pocus. Why, did that get bad reviews too?
Yes, it did.
Oh, geez.
Only 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic, it only got a 43 compared to 72 and 7.5 audience.
The problem is, it's a little kid's movie.
But it was good.
It was good. It's a little kid's movie. It's for your kids. No, it's good.
Speaking of kids things, there's one that I didn't put on my list, but I know is has that split rating, which is Space Jam. People love Space Jam, but critics hated it.
Yeah.
Space Jam was pretty damn good. In fact, it was so good and people loved it so much, they made a second one.
The second one was a flop, wasn't it?
I don't think it was a complete flop, but I think a lot of people didn't like the change in the characters. But honestly, the characters grew up. So I can understand why they changed them.
What's that one movie back in the day? That Roger Rabbit movie, whatever.
That's a classic. I don't know what it got.
No, I was going to tie it in with the whole thing because that was a classic, and I think when Space Jam was coming out, the first one.
Yeah.
When that was coming out, people were like, okay, there's no way they can accomplish this, putting cartoons with, actors into the movie. And that's, I think
they already did it with Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, that's the movie I'm talking about. Yeah. But I think that they didn't expect too much with the whole Space Jam movie. That's why the critics gave it a bad rating or review.
Yeah, I think that might be it. Did we talk about Venom yet?
No, we haven't.
Because Venom is also another one. That's more recent. And like it had a rating of 30 on the Tomatoes.
When did that movie come
out? 2000, was it 2018 or 19?
So it's a little bit newer. I thought it was older than that, but like I
think it was just before the pandemic.
Yeah, I actually watched it. I didn't see any reviews on it or whatever, but I thought that was a really good movie. Tom Hardy did. Was his name Tom Hardy?
So did audiences.
Tom Hardy, right?
They gave it an 80 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I would give about that score. No, not 80 for Rotten Tomatoes, but.
Well, the thing is 80 on Rotten Tomatoes is pretty damn good.
Oh,
it's usually like the score of a typically good one is like 70 and above.
Okay.
80 is pretty damn good. On Metacritic, it's 35, and then the audience score was 63. I will put down that it was the negative reviews were mostly mixed, followed by some negative reviews.
Is it because they a lot of the comic book fans wanted Venom to be the bad guy, or what?
I think the critics said a lot more about like the acting and stuff like that, and I don't know if people and the gimmicky stuff, and I think it all tied together for audiences though.
Well, like once you watch like the ending of Venom, you see like how like Carnage and all that gets tied into it, and I thought it was kind of cool. I didn't know Venom was a space alien.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't. I thought it was like I thought it was from like the lab, like how Spider-Man became Spider-Man.
I can see how you get that. I mean, it's a symbiote that.
Because Venom kind of does look like a spider,
But I had one more that I really want to talk about. I don't know if you have any more for negative critic reviews anyway, which is Hotel Transylvania.
Did that get negative reviews or?
Yeah, it only got 44 on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas the audience had a 72. But the key thing here is I wanted to talk about the critics' consensus that Rotten Tomato had. Hotel Transylvania's buoyant, giddy tone may please children, but it may be a little too loud and thinly scraped for adult audiences. Here's the thing. It's a kid's movie. Right. It's meant for the kids. They're reviewing it as if as if people are going to see it at the adults going are typically taking their kids. So they're rating it as if it was an adult cartoon. It's not. It was never meant to be.
Remember how I said earlier that we think that I think that critics are working for someone above them. And I think this is a perfect example because, like, if someone don't like Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell, they're gonna be like, give them the shit ton of worst.
Oh, I can't necessarily point out some of them, but a lot of stuff. A
lot of Will Ferrell movies got bad reviews from critics, but people loved it.
Well, yeah, people hate Will Ferrell.
Yeah, yeah.
There are people that hate Will Ferrell, and I do think that plays into it because I saw a lot of reviews that were trashing the actors themselves and not the movie.
Right, and I think it affects the way people watch the movie. Like Megamind. I do want
to say one more thing on Hotel Transylvania before we move on to anything else, which is that even as an adult without kids, I still enjoyed it.
I love it.
I don't think they're right to begin with, but the fact that they missed the point of the movie entirely is just doubling down on how stupid it is they rated it so low.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I thought it was cute. Maybe because the critics don't like, what's her name, Selena Gomez or whatever, Selena Gomez.
For Metacritic, it was 47 and 6.9.
What was the audience views on that?
72 and 6.9.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, but you definitely mentioned Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And Adam Sandler made a movie somewhat recently, called Uncut Gems.
I haven't seen it.
Here's the thing. Critics loved that movie. Audiences hated it. And I think I know why. Because they went to see an Adam Sandler flick.
And it's not Adam Sandler.
It's Adam Sandler, but in a serious role.
Oh,
Adam Sandler is a funny guy.
Yeah,
he took a serious role. And people were going into this movie expecting funny jokes and stuff. It got a more serious movie.
The only person that can pull this off? Jim Carrey.
Because he could do both?
Yeah.
He's done both?
Yeah.
He's not typecast?
Yeah, he can play a serious movie and he can play, a comedian.
Yeah, I think that does follow. But I think most of the movies I've seen of his are the funnier ones.
I mean, look at Sonic the Hedgehog. Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik, and that's kind of a serious role, isn't it? And he's not really that funny.
I mean, there is a little brevity in that movie, but it's not. But I see your point. It's not the slapstick humor of like The Mask or.
I mean, he knows how to play a bad guy. He played the Riddler in Batman. He looked like an insane guy.
Yeah. But I think another one is like The Witch.
I never seen that one.
People just didn't get it. They just didn't get it. But here's like where Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic differ. Rotten Tomatoes put this sky high. 90 on the tomato meter. All right? They put that movie fucking sky high. And yet the audience was at 60.
I feel like when
where Metacritic was at 83 and the audience was at 7.4. So they're a lot closer. They're both, I mean, Metacritic still put it pretty high, but the user score on Metacritic is also pretty high. Whereas audiences on Rotten Tomatoes just did not agree.
Well, the more higher the tomato amount is, the more you throw, right? So don't even believe in Rotten Tomatoes.
No, some of the other ones, like we talked about Sausage Party, right?
Yeah.
But another one is like Spy Kids.
I like it in 3D.
I don't actually know what to think about this one. Because as a kid, I liked it, but I don't know if I would go back and watch it again.
Oh, no. It came out when we were kids,
so,
and it was cool when we were kids.
But it got a 93 from the tomato meter and only an audience score of 47, which is definitely a split between the critics and the audience.
I mean, there's a lot of movies out there, like even like Pixar, Disney movies that was like so overhyped, and I bought it, and then I watched it and I like, this is fucking stupid. Like one movie was Soul. I freaking hated that movie, but it was like, they made it sound like it was going to be a good movie. I didn't like it.
Do you have any examples?
Fight Club. I don't know why they didn't like it.
Well, you don't talk about Fight Club.
Huh? Yeah, you don't talk about it.
No, it's all seriousness. I think a lot of it was like, I don't think it met the expectations of the people watching it.
You don't think?
I don't think it. I think that was the reason why there was a split.
Well, I like thriller movies that get you thinking. Maybe that's why I liked it. Because you would have never guessed a guy had a split personality towards the end. So
yeah, I didn't get that until like the end.
Yeah, and that's why I like movies like that. So I thought it was good.
Now there's a movie that might get us in trouble for talking about it. The Last Jedi.
I stopped watching Star Wars after episode 3.
I just want to point out
episode 5.
I want to point out both Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes have a major split on this one. The critics have like 91 on Rotten Tomatoes and 84 on Metacritic, whereas the audience only had 42 and 4.1 respectively. And I think a lot of this has to do with the politics around the movie.
Yeah.
There's so much politics, and there's also the fact that a lot of people don't like the direction the movie went with the actual storyline and the Star Wars characters.
Well, Star Wars started going downhill after episode 4 or 5. So,
and here's the thing: is anytime you talk about Star Wars, there are going to be comments of people that are just trashing it.
I mean, I can trash it. It's like I liked episode 3. I thought the pod racing was like really cool, but after that,
here's the thing:
it's like watching a freaking soap opera on a sci-fi channel because you got a whiny little Anakin, when he grows up.
What I find interesting is that for a lot of people, if you're not talking about the original trilogy, like the prequels suck, the new trilogy sucks, like everything sucks but the original trilogy. It's pretty much how a lot of people view it.
No, I told you episode 3 was good.
Yeah, and a lot of people will disagree with you.
I like the pod racing was cool.
So like that's a thing that it kind of annoys me a little bit because
you try to fix a pod while you're racing and try to fix it at the same time. That's impossible, but only Anakin can do it.
So do you have any other ones? Oh, I just thought of another one that critics loved and audience hated, which was Noah. This one is 100% political, but it's not as we're gonna trash the people. Literally, the people who made Noah were atheists making a religious movie. Yeah. How are you gonna do that? You're going to take somebody's religion and trash it and expect people to like it.
I was super stoked about that movie. Then I watched it. And I was like, "What the fuck? This movie sucked."
I mean, the guy who made it literally said, this is for non-believers. A movie named Noah is aimed at religious people. And you basically made a movie that's not for religious people.
Yeah.
And you expect it to do good? That's on the fault of the director, creator person.
If you're going to want to do a religious movie, do it like how Mel Gibson did The Passion. That got like a lot of good ratings.
That'd be in the vein of making a movie about trans people and then trashing trans people in the movie. Like that'd be how bad taking like a religious thing like Noah and making it for non-believers is.
Yeah.
It's not. You just don't do that. That's not respectful to anybody.
No, that movie was a flop.
I'm laughing at this because I just thought of something from the ASDF movie.
Oh, go ahead.
Everybody do the flop.
It's the part where he goes, "Everybody do the flop." I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. When you were a kid, you ever watch that movie Hook? Well, it has Robin Williams starring as Peter Pan as a grown up. I'm going to tell the people watching the podcast. But basically, Peter Pan grew up, had his own family, had a wife, and he forgot his whole, Peter Pan, adventures. But then Hook steals his kids, and then he has to go back as Peter Pan and try to rescue him. But anyways, critics hated it. People watched it, loved it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that one happened,
Well, they didn't like the fact that Peter Pan was a grown ass man, so
Is that really what it is?
probably. But they had like a really good cast, so
Probably why people liked it. They probably liked the actors. And they probably liked how it was going.
yeah, they did a what's that word? Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think you said it.
Oh, phenomenal! It was a phenomenal movie. There we go. Critics didn't think it was going to do good, so they kind of like, well, this movie sucks. There wasn't really much trailers on this movie. They weren't trying to push it out, but it was still out there and people watched it, and then the audiences loved it.
Now, this is completely off of topic, but I did want to point out that while I was doing research, I did a quick search on a movie I suggested to you, and it had phenomenal reviews across the board.
So, how was the reviews on that movie?
Got a 90 critic score and an audience score of 93.
Oh, no shit. So
Yeah.
maybe the critics actually got something right for once, huh? Yeah, so we're on the phone yesterday. We're talking about it, and I thought it was going to be like a little fucking cartoon, like kind of like South Park or something like that, and then
No, it's
I
a
realized
live
it was a
action.
fucking live action movie. Now I'm kind of like curious,
It's really good, and it's loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons and the lore behind it.
Is there dice rolling?
No, it's an action.
It's not like that movie with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, where you junk. What's it called? Jungle.
It's not Jungle Boy. It's
Jumanji. Jumanji. I thought it was like them into the game, where.
No, it's not like Jumanji.
Okay.
And by the way, Jumanji is another one. It was the original Jumanji, not the one with the Rock in it, but the one.
Yeah, Robin Williams.
Yeah, that was another one that split audiences and critics.
Oh, I guess I mentioned that, huh? And then, like, kids love those movies.
I loved it. I'm kind of glad that we don't all have to agree on stuff because there are certain things that we love that others don't.
So if someone tells you, like, don't watch that movie, it fucking sucks, just be like,
well,
everyone had different opinions.
Yeah, if you want to watch a movie, don't be ashamed to watch it. Because maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. You won't know until you try it.
Yeah, I'll be going to the movies here, like, in a month, Well, July, that new Insidious movie comes out. It's a horror. Got to take the wife out to watch that. And usually Insidious movies are usually pretty good, so.
All right. Well, thank you for watching the podcast. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, hit the like button or
subscribe to
button.
the channel.
Yeah, or subscribe on YouTube or whatever. I've been CRollur.
And I'm Willy.
Peace out.
Peace. Boo, boo, boo.